isn't this game? This game always seems to be prime time, Thursday, Sunday night, Monday night, whatever it is. So nothing new for either one of these teams to play each other in prime time. So it's exciting. You know the whole world's watching, and you want to give it everything you have.
Ravens and Steelers at Heinz Field on Sunday Night Football. And Wolf, it is
Wednesday.
You got it. You nailed it. And it is also happy AFC Offensive Player of the Week day for Ben Roethlisberger. Very well deserving of that honor this week for the performance he put on in Tampa on Monday Night Football.
No question about it. You think about it, in his 15th year, he sets another first when he goes the first 3 games, throwing 300 yards or more in his first 3. I mean, it's fabulous. And this guy seems to be getting better. Like, I don't know, like fine wine he's aging, you know?
All right, and Ben had the day off today, of course, a coach's decision. Let's take a look at the rest of the Steelers practice report for Wednesday, week 4. He was not the only vet getting a chance to rest today, but Mike Hilton did not practice. He suffered that hyperextended elbow injury in the game on Monday. Ramon Foster also getting a vet's day off. Juju Smith-Schuster new to this list with an ab injury. Then full participants, this is the good news, Wolf. You have Dave DeCastro, Marcus Gobert, and Morgan Burnett, but just to temper it a little bit, Gilbert said this was a very light practice, not a lot of physicality, coming off a Monday night game and then getting ready for what is always a physical Ravens game.
Well, you know that you're letting your guys get rejuiced up. I mean, this is a big game. This is, of course, the two trains, one track week, and so the mindset is getting intense and strong, and you're upping yourself after coming off a big game and a must-win situation, really. So this is an important time for the guys. Getting a little rejuvenated. You got to get your competitive juices flowing. But, yeah, it was a light practice, and that's what you got to give them to get reloaded.
All right, we'll definitely pay attention tomorrow to see what your guys, DeCastro and Gilbert, were able to do. Now, they did not play on Monday in Tampa. We know that B.J. Finney and Matt Filer were next man up. You guys had confidence in them, you and Tunch, that is.
Absolutely.
And here's quarterback Ben Roethlisberger talking about their performance in the locker room earlier today.
There wasn't one change that I made. Randy might have called some things to put a tight end over there or whatever, but when we were in the no huddle and I was calling plays, I didn't think about it one time. And to me, that's the ultimate compliment to 2 guys that are out there. Obviously, Finney plays a lot, so that's not new, but for Anchor to be out there, I thought he did a great job.
All right, I know you went back and you watched. You had to watch, right?
Yes, I went back and watched
How
the
did
game.
they do?
They did fabulous. I got to tell you something. It was enjoyable. First of all, at the game, I remember making my first Monday Night Football start. And this was, of course, with Dandy Don and Howard Cosell and everybody out there. But let me tell you, the nerves and the energy and the adrenaline run high and hot, and the intensity is big. It's a big stage. And so as I'm watching on pregame at the game, I'm looking at like the contrast between Marquise Pouncey with a very fierce, supremely confident look as he's standing on the sidelines with the Matt Filer making his first NFL or Monday Night Football start at tackle too, and
right.
He's got I just saw a ghost look in his eyes. I mean, you want to talk about wide eyes, and I recognize that. I know what it's like to be out there and have that feeling like, my goodness, everybody in the world is watching, and here we go. And I got to say this, I wish I played half as good as Matt Filer played. He did so well, and I was so thrilled for him because that is a great opportunity to come out there and do what you need to do as a pro and then do such a great job. He was physical. He stayed after the block. He put people on the ground. He'd get them on the ground. He'd dive on them, put a little jelly on them, as we call it. That's all part of being an offensive lineman. And I got to tell you, BJ, you knew what you had. This guy's a tough. He'll fight you to the nth degree each and every play. But for Matt Filer to get that start on Monday Night Football at offensive tackle, superb job, Matthew. Welcome to the club.
Dave DeCastro was asked about both of their performances since he was also on the sideline watching along with you, and he said, hey, both these guys could be starters in the leagues. They are taking after the Chris Hubbarts and those guys that we have seen help maybe get their feet under them here with Coach Mike Munchak and then go off to another team.
And who's coaching them? Like you said,
Hall of Famer.
Yes, a Hall of Famer, Mike Munchak. Let's not forget Sean Surratt either.
All right.
We got to throw him in there.
Surratt, shout out. Too much alliteration
There you go. Now that would be something I would stumble over.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, Mike Prisuta joins me with his perspective for Week 4. As Ben Roethlisberger said, Steelers and Ravens always feels like it's in prime time. We know what comes with this matchup between two AFC North teams. And joining me now for his perspective on Week 4, here's Mike Prisuta.
Thanks, Missy. It was a laugher in Tampa until it wasn't. It was a blowout until it got close. And it was over at halftime until it threatened to go into overtime. If we're not expecting such things by now from the Steelers, we ought to be. 14-point lead midway through the fourth quarter wasn't enough at Cleveland. The regular season opener eventually became anybody's game. Both teams had a chance to win it. Both teams had a chance to win it with a field goal in overtime. The following week against Kansas City, the Steelers fell in a 21-point hole, but came storming back in the first half. They fell behind by a couple of touchdowns again, only to once more narrow the gap. In the end, they were a defensive stop away from having a chance to steal the game. The Buccaneers can relate. After closing from 30-10 to 30-13 to 30-20 to 30-27 with plenty of time left to alter the outcome. Eventually the Steelers got a stop, and after that they were finally able to run out the clock. But it wasn't until after Ben Roethlisberger conjured up some magic just north of the 2-minute warning that the Steelers were ultimately able to exhale. Anyone else here sensing a trend? Now comes the resumption of a rivalry with the Ravens, noted for its physicality and for games that are agonizingly close. 4 times in the last 6 meetings and 9 times in the last 14, the margin of victory has been 4 points or fewer. It was the slimmest of margins the last time the Steelers and the Ravens got together, and the last lead wasn't achieved until Chris Boswell kicked a field goal in the final minute of regulation. More of the same appears almost inevitable. The NFL today is comprised of teams that are defensively challenged and can really pass. The Steelers have been such a team through the season's first 3 weeks, and Joe Flacco has had his share of moments against the Steelers. That should lead to more of what we've already seen on Sunday night at Heinz Field. It ain't over till it's over is a cliche that's back in vogue. And that, Missy, is Prisuta's perspective for Ravens Week.
And doesn't Ravens Week, you always get excited because they're two teams that know each other so well, as you said, always a close game. You go back to Christmas Day, the Antonio Brown catch, and get your juices flowing, right?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that really separates this game is that both teams feel that way. And I think there's, they both want to beat each other badly, but there's a respect there that's shared. I think it flows through Terrell Suggs on the Baltimore side and Ben Roethlisberger on the Steelers side. Those are two, marquee headline guys that go head-to-head every game.
Right.
And, they make plays against each other, and then they do it again the next time. Even the Baltimore Ravens media notes this week called this the best rivalry in the NFL. So they can agree on that at least. And this is the first of two, and I am anticipating it like you do, more than I should say you do most other games.
Right, and just quickly though, as much as these two teams know each other, there is a lot of personnel changes on the Ravens offense.
There are. The Ravens have kind of reinvented themselves. They didn't pass it very well last year, and they decided, hey, everybody else is doing it. Maybe we ought to try this passing thing. We have a pretty good quarterback in Joe Flacco. He's got new receivers. He's got a new tight end, and 97 points for this Baltimore team, 12 for 12 in the red zone, Missy. They have not missed yet in the red zone. They are not last year's Ravens. They can change that scoreboard.
All right, a lot to look forward to Sunday night, primetime game at Heinz Field. Mike, don't go anywhere. When we return after this break, Bob Labriola joins us for Agree to Disagree. All right, welcome back, everybody. It is time now for Agree to Disagree, the show with the motto,
I'm right. He's always wrong.
All right. Statement number 1, Artie is the guy. Labs, you can go first.
I believe that Artie Burns
kidding.
is the
Just go ahead.
is the most talented player at the position that's currently up for grabs opposite Joe Hayden. But I'm going to disagree with the statement in that I believe what the statement means is just put Artie Burns there and don't make him beat out the other two guys. And that's what I disagree with. It worked in 2010 with the 2 dogs, 1 bone thing with Emmanuel Sanders and Antonio Brown. And in my mind, it was clear from the beginning of that Antonio Brown was the better player. However, Mike Tomlin forced them to compete. I think it made both of them better and maybe lit that fire underneath Antonio Brown that still burns today.
I believe that Artie Burns is a legitimate first-round talent. He's a cornerback with ball skills. He's better than Cam Sutton and or Cody Sensabaugh, but I'm making him earn that position by beating out those two guys.
All right, Prisuta, your take.
Well, you got that half right, or maybe 3/4 right. He is a number one pick, and he is better than the other two guys. So that's the guy you have to play. And I get what they did in Tampa. Artie Burns has not been playing well enough. He's not the only guy on defense who hasn't been playing well enough, but he got himself into this predicament. He's got to be the one to work himself out of it. Hopefully Tampa got his attention. I think at this point you have to ride it out now with Artie Burns and hope that you can get what you thought you were going to get out of him the rest of this season at some point. Artie Burns is the one who was the number one pick among that group with Cam Sutton and Cody Sensabaugh. Artie Burns was among the 5 players identified by defensive coordinator Keith Butler as players who have to stand up for the Steelers defense to be what they think it can be. It's not going to be that without Artie Burns. Hasn't been that with him, but there's still a lot of football to be played. Artie Burns needs to be the guy playing it.
All right, statement number 2. You have to beat the Ravens in another shootout. Prisuta, you're first.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that as well. We just got done talking about cornerback opposite Joe Hayden and how the defense is in a state of flux right now, trying to find its way. These are not the same old Baltimore Ravens. They went out and got a new receiving core in the offseason, brought in 3 veteran guys to provide options for Joe Flacco. They drafted another couple of tight ends to follow in the long succession of Baltimore playmaking tight ends. They're even using quarterback Lamar Jackson out of Louisville as a gadget guy at wide receiver. They put him on the field. They let him run around, go in motion. They try to trick you that way. And Flacco is still throwing that deep ball pretty well. So you look at this Baltimore team, 97 points in 3 games, 12 for 12 in the red zone. And you look at what the Steelers defense has been going through this season. I think some points are going to be scored Sunday night. It's going to be incumbent upon the Steelers offense to score a bunch of them.
All right, Labs.
Well, I agree with the statement, and I can say that Mike finally got one right. But I also believe that we can say, gotta beat the, and then just insert whatever nickname of the upcoming opponent is in that statement in another shootout the
Falcons.
rest of this season. There you go, the Bengals.
Patriots.
Because
Browns?
that's
Saints.
that's the kind of team that the Steelers have become. And I believe you got to play to your strengths, and that's the Steelers' strength. And just to piggyback on some of the things that Mike pointed out, the Ravens are first in the NFL in red zone. The Steelers are tied for third. The Ravens are fifth in the NFL in points per game. And that just shows how much that team has changed from what it used to be. And I guess you could make the same case about the Steelers. The Steelers are a much different team than they used to be when Steelers-Ravens always seemed to be a game that was for you'd play the regular season games to figure out the venue for the playoff game, and then you played the playoff game. Don't bring that bell at me. I'm making a point. You play the playoff game.
Done. It took you too
You
long.
play the play because you two
making
guys
points is
interrupted
over.
me. And you play the playoff game to see who would go to the Super Bowl.
All right, I'm picking Labs to win solely because I'm scared of him right now. He was very angry that I cut him off, so I think it's 1-1-1 now.
No, it should be like the Price is Right. If you go over, you lose. That's it.
Pursuita's 1-1,
End of
Labs, this
story.
is yours, and you tied last week. So same record as
Challenge
the Steelers.
flag.
That is it for Agree to Disagree.
Challenge flag.
That is it for Steelers Live. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you
After
tomorrow,
further review,
F1
I
p.m.
won.